What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to go through 8 different functions with unique transformations. And on top of that, we're also going to practice identifying the domain and the range of the new function with the transformations. Now, just like I tell students on factoring or working with fractions or multiplication tables, it's all about practice. So even though you might understand some basic transformations, maybe for a quadratic or maybe for the absolute value, it is critically important for you to be able to quickly identify how they're going to impact different functions. That's why I have 8 unique functions from the parent functions, as well as different transformations. So we can practice and we can quickly start to see the characteristics that impact our domain and range, as well as ones that do not impact our domain and range. But I'm going to focus on sketching. So please don't add to me. Don't, get at me in the comments for my graphs being a little off. It's all about just a sketch to understand what is being applied to our function. So let's get it right into it. The first one is the quadratic. I hope most students are familiar with that. When I'm adding a 1 inside the function, that's going to be shifting my graph 1 unit to the left. And then when I'm subtracting outside of the function, that is going to be shifting my graph down 2 units. So I'm going to take my vertex, which I have right here. I'm going to shift it 1 unit to the left and then down 2 units. And I can go ahead and now resketch my graph. When looking at the domain and range, the domain, it doesn't really matter actually as far as my shifting left or right, because the graph is continuously expanding to the left and to the right. The only, actually the domain would never be impacted. So my domain is going to be from negative infinity to positive infinity. And my range though is impacted because when my vertex is my absolute minimum. So when that shifts down to 2 units, that's now going to be the lowest value of my graph. So my range is going to be from -2 to infinity, where -2 is included. That's why I'm using a bracket, not the parentheses. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the absolute value function, which is very similar. This is the V-shaped graph, and we use a lot of the same process to work with on the quadratic. We basically are going to apply these transformations with our vertex. So in this case now, I have a negative on the outside. That's now going to shift my graph or reflect my graph about the x-axis, and then it's going to go up 3 units. So you first reflect it first and then go up 3. So 1, 2, 3. And now it's going to have an orientation that is going to be facing down. All right, now that's important because my range is going to be impacted. My domain is not impacted. It's still all real numbers. But now my range is going to go, the lowest point that it's going to go is going to keep on going to negative infinity. But now the highest point is going to be 3. And again, that is included. That is a point on your graph. So therefore, we're going to use the bracket. Now let's go and take a look at the cube root function. And again, I didn't mention it, but in the gray, I did the parent graph. So therefore, you guys can see what the initial graph is. And then when we transform it, how that impacts the domain. Now, this one has a domain and range of all real numbers for both of them. And what happens here when let's see, I'm going to multiply by negative. So that's a reflection about the x-axis. But then also I'm multiplying by 2 on the outside, which is going to vertically stretch the graph. So the graph is going to look something like this. But I want you guys to see, I know it's a really bad graph, the domain and range are not impacted, right? The reflection as well as the stretching does not change my domain and range at all because it's all for all real numbers in that case. So my domain here is all real numbers, negative infinity to infinity, and my range is going to be all real numbers. All right, let's go and look at the square root. Now the square root does have a restricted domain and range, right? The domain is only positive numbers and the range is only positive numbers. So when I'm applying something that's horizontally or vertically like shifting, that is going to impact, as well as reflections, that will impact my domain and range. Now I need to understand what is actually happening here though. A lot of times students will say, oh, it's 6 units to the right. Don't do that, right? What we have to do is factor out that 3, and we can recognize this is actually 2 units, only 2 units to the right, but we do have a horizontal compression by a factor of 3. So I'm going to take my graph 2 units to the right, and it's kind of being horizontally compressed. So I'll kind of have it go a little bit like that. All right. Now my domain is, remember, there's a set of all x values that make up the graph, right? So the farthest left this graph goes is going to be from -2, which is included. So we're going to use a bracket, and that's going to go to infinity. My range does not get impacted, right? Because it was only horizontally shifting this graph. So my range is going to be from 0 to infinity. Now let's go and take a look at the cube root function. So this cube root function, again, domain and range is all real numbers. So what's going to happen here when now I have a vertical compression by a factor of 1/2, and then I'm shifting the graph 1 unit to the right. So now this graph will probably look let's say a little bit fatter, okay? But again, the domain and range are not going to be impacted, right? Because when your domain is all real numbers and your range is all real numbers, there's no restrictions, then any transformation I apply to this graph is not going to be impacted. What about when we have the reciprocal function? Now, it's important to recognize that the reciprocal function has a vertical asymptote. I'm not going to write, I'll use that in my last graph. Has a vertical asymptote at x equals 0 and a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. So when I shift this up 1 unit, what that means is my asymptote is going to be shifted up 1 unit. And then you can see there's a 2 here. Now, reciprocal function is interesting because it's an odd function. So therefore, we can actually describe this as either a vertical stretch or compression or a horizontal stretch or compression. But for the sake of this video, I'll say this is a vertical vertical stretch as a factor of 2. I'm not shifting it horizontally left or right. So I'll have something like this, and then, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to represent the vertical stretch of my reciprocal function. But the domain and range are going to be impacted. Now, the way that we write domain and range when we have like asymptotes breaking things up, I just like to do write it as 1 to the left of the asymptote and then to the right of the asymptote. So my domain in this case would be from -infinity to 0, and then union, that's to the left, and then union means I'm going to combine it with what's to the right, which is going to be from 0 to infinity. Now, I'm using parentheses around 0 because 0 is undefined. That's where the asymptote is, right? But I can go the domain includes all values all the way close up to 0, but not including 0. So that's why we use parentheses instead of brackets. For the range, that's changed, right? Because that got shifted up. So that's going to be from -infinity to 1, union 1 to infinity. Number 7, y equals a -e raised to the -x. All right, so we got some transformations going on here. Also note that this has a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. And so what I'm going to do here is reflect about the y-axis, or the x-axis, I'm sorry. That would look something like this. And then if I reflect about that's first reflection about the x-axis, and then I reflect about the y-axis. Now the graph's going to look something like that. Okay. It's important. Let's erase this one. So it's important though. Did my horizontal asymptote change? Well, let's think about it. When I reflected this graph about the y-axis, it didn't change. When I reflected, or x-axis, when I reflect about the y-axis, it doesn't change. So this remains the same. Now my domain is non-restricted of our original parent graph. So no matter what the transformations are, that's not impacting it. The range, though, is restricted, right? The range was only for positive numbers. But now, when I apply these transformations, you can see it's actually only for negative numbers. So it's going to be from -infinity all the way up to 0. Again, there's an asymptote there, so 0 is not defined or part of the range. And then for number 8, here again, my domain is restricted for only positive numbers. And in this case, I have a reflection about the y-axis, and then I'm going to be shifting it down too. So I reflect it about the y-axis. Okay, now again, it's important. There's a vertical asymptote here, right? When I reflect it, that does not move my vertical asymptote, but then I'm shifting it down 2 units. So now the graph is going to look something like that. Okay, and in terms of the range, that's not going to be impacted at all. The only thing that's going to be impacted is now my domain. For the parent graph, my domain was all positive numbers, and for my range, but for the restriction now, it's only going to be all negative numbers. So that's from -infinity to 0. Again, 0 is not a part of the domain because it's an asymptote. And then my range here is going to be from -infinity to positive infinity. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Those were the different functions with 2 different transformations. I forgot to mention that. If you want to go and see me do this with 3 transformations, then check out the next video I have for you here. Cheers.